Yo, 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 what it do? What it do? It's your boy Yellow the Poet, and today I'm here with Mr. Deshaun Jackson. He is definitely a fitness coach, and we are definitely going to dive in and see exactly what that interprets. So, Mr. Deshaun, welcome to YTP Entertainment. Thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate you, and we're looking forward to diving into this. Please tell us what you got going on.
Yellow, thank you for inviting me on. Listeners, thanks you for tuning in. So my name is Deshaun Jackson. A little bit about myself. I'm currently a psych nurse, but I have transitioned that into lifestyle coaching. Psych nurse pays the bills. Lifestyle coaching is the dream, and that's what I'm pushing
There
forward.
you go. There you go. That is awesome. That is awesome. So tell us, how did you get into being a psych coach?
So let me back up because that involves some steps, and I'll try to shorten them. Long story short, I was a physical therapy assistant before I became a nurse, and in
Awesome.
doing that, I had a couple instances that shaped that. One, I was working as a PTA, and I had another colleague basically tell me to stay in my lane, and I took that personal. So I
Wow.
decided to use that. And my godmother, she raised me a lot of my life, was an influence to go into nursing, and COVID was happening. So during COVID, all these factors are factoring in, and they pushed me into going into U of M, going into nursing during COVID. That's a whole nother story. And in graduating U of M, at first I was on Ascension Genesis's critical care floor ICU, and I was when I knew I graduated, I knew that's what I wanted to go into. Long story short, my boss at an old facility remembered where I currently work at. Hey, you graduated, asked me to come back and work a day a week. And I'll tell you, it was a contrast between working with ICU patients and working with mental health patients, and I fell in love. I knew what I wanted to do at that moment. Stopped working at the ICU, went into full time working with mental health patients, youth and adults. And at some point during that, I started to teach mindset training. I learned it from my coach. I started to implement it in my life. And I went from just teaching coping skills, go for a walk, play a video game, to it's about how you perceive things. And
Yes.
I've used that foundation now over 3 years to now transition that into lifestyle coaching.
Awesome. Awesome, man. That is a very interesting journey. I love it, man. I love it. You're definitely doing some things that a lot of people have dreamed of. And it's very important, what you're doing because you're actually helping a lot of people out in their lives and helping them to better themselves as well. So tell me, between the ICU and the mental health, tell us some things that you've actually learned about yourself, things that you may not have picked up on a while back before you got started about yourself, and how does that help you to cope with dealing with ICU patients as well as mental health patients?
So that dynamic happened, I was just graduating. We were just coming out of COVID, and again, I thought I wanted the critical care because I was going to expand on that knowledge. And I realized some ICU nurses, the way they'll say this is, they like their patients tubed or quiet. They like their and I realized that in working with mental health, I like my patients talking. I like to engage. I like them being. I think that if you would have asked me before I graduated, Deshaun, do you want to go into mental health after you graduate? I just told you, hell no. No, it's not. That's not what I want to do. But once I had the experience and I was engaged, and then especially once I started teaching mindset training, it flipped, it changed. And you've seen the patients report the difference between just telling them, um, here's a coping skill versus let's talk about how you perceive what you're going through.
Mhm.
And that shaped and changed that dynamic. And once I realized that, I stopped work again, and I want mental health. Working with people is where I want to be at, and I think I always knew it, but you had to find the right medium that worked for me.
Dang, that is awesome, man. That is awesome. So how does that help you out, now that you're doing it with fitness? How does that help you to continue being fit?
Well, it's all interconnected. How you take care of your health directly affects your mental health. I
Mm.
see this in working with patients every day, and I see it in the gym community every day. The reason
Yes.
why the gym community stays so dedicated is because a lot of them are using the fitness to deal with mental, and then in mental health. some of them don't work out as much. So I try to emphasize that this is a critical component of your
Mhm.
mental health. If you're taking weeks and months off, I'm noticing that this tracks. Tell me about your doctor, your health with your doctor. Tell me about how that's affecting you. Are you sleeping? How's your eating? Are you tracking your macronutrition? Are you overweight? Are you underweight? So all these things align, and they just overlap now from nurse RN in a psych facility to lifestyle coaching. All
Mm.
these elements overlap.
Wow. So how do you balance your day? Um, First off, as an RN, how do you balance your day? Because that is a very tight schedule and very busy schedule. How are you balancing your day?
Okay, so um, to me, I have to either life is going, it happens, it is going to, that's a given. Let me give a quick example. We all go and have people who have died in our family. That is a fact. And how you perceive that death is ultimately whether it has you crying on the floor because it's so painful, or you use the death as fuel to motivate you. It's all perception. So you're right when you say, how do I manage that day? But it's not, it's a perception of what I want to do. So first thing, I'm up at 3 a.m. I'm grabbing my coffee. I'm journaling. I'm reading. It's positive affirmations. It's projecting forward into the future and then realizing what do you have to do today, Sean, in 24 hours to make your future self happen. I have a quick analogy that I say every morning. I project that I'm chasing my future self, and he just ran, and we're running and we're chasing each other, and I'm behind him, current Deshaun. And as the future Deshaun crests over the railroad tracks, I can't see him anymore. And just as I get to the railroad tracks, I see him make a left turn. And so I've got to keep chasing every day to catch him who's already where he's at. And so I use these to motivate. And then I'm posting on my Instagram, I'm posting on my Facebook, stories, working out, going to the gym. Then I go to work. Now I have to take myself out of my day because I'm here to work with you. So from my 9 to 5, I'm working with patients on mindset. Then once I get out, every once in a while, I have an in-person training client. So that pushes my day till 6 o'clock. I get home, and once you have a personal brand business like Yellow, there's still something always to be done.
Yes.
I can take the time off, but it's going to hurt me personally because there's something always that needs to be done. So, and on top of eating, trying to maintain my nutrition. So that full day keeps me busy. There's no excuse for me why I have no time to do anything in the
That is
day.
so
Yeah.
that is so true.
So
Now, you said something that is personally near and dear to my heart, is near and dear to my everyday life, my schedule, the whole nine. You mentioned affirmations. There is
mhm.
not many people that I've had on my show that mention affirmations. Please tell me how important are affirmations to you, and do you implement that in your exercises?
First, there's nobody that's going to validate you more than you. And that people misunderstand that. They think they need the external validation from other people. But what happens is you're not always going to get it in the amounts that you're going to get. And if you rely on that external validation, they're also going to give you the shit you don't want. So that being said, you have to validate you more than anybody else. And in doing that, I use positive affirmations. I use incantations. The difference being positive affirmations, I'm trying to change my mood, constantly repeating. Incantations, I want to change my physiology and who I am. That requires action. So I'm trying to use these meditations, reading, journaling, and I do video journals. So in the morning, I'm taking video journals of myself of the last 24 hours, Deshaun. What happened? How did you handle it? What did you do? So you can correct in real time of what you need to correct with. So that's how I use it. And again, I gave the analogy about seeing myself forward in the future. These are
Mhm.
critical. And especially, we all have these down moments in life. They happen where life happens or we do something and it hits us. And you need that. You need to be able to boost yourself because you are not continuously going to get it from other people in the way that you need it and or want it.
That is so true, my brother. And I must add to that. I kid you not. If I'm not doing my affirmations, my positive affirmations every day, and I do mine 3 times a day. If I'm not doing my affirmations every day, I feel like my day is off. It's unbalanced.
Absolutely.
And balance in everyday life is extremely important. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing. Balance is important. If you have your affirmations, you have your meditations, because I meditate every day as well. So
Yep,
another thing we have in
absolutely.
common. You have your affirmations, you have your meditations. You're definitely doing all these positive things to definitely put yourself in the spotlight of where you're gonna be in your future. And you definitely said some things that have extremely touched my heart, because I love these things. These are things that I practice every single day. And
Every day, I agree.
and it's also become a second nature, excuse me. It's become a second nature thing for me. Now, another thing that you actually touched on was the pandemic for the COVID-19. I was affected negatively by COVID-19, because I was at one point this gym rat. I was constantly in the gym and doing other things to help build my body as well. But after catching COVID, I pretty much lost all of my muscle mass and been working extremely hard to get it back. It's been tough, but I finally found some solutions that would actually help me get to where I need to be. And those are the things that I'm working on right now. Like one I get is calisthenics. And calisthenics has definitely been an extremely important thing in my life right now. And I love it, because without it, I wouldn't have found myself again being where I needed to be in my life in order to continuously make progress. So I love that, because you actually touch bases on things that a lot of us are having trouble with, a lot of milestones and things of that nature that we are trying to overcome and trying to get past. Um, so with that, when you're doing your physical therapy, what are some of the key exercises that you are helping people to utilize to better themselves?
So now this would vary, across maybe the patient or the client that I'm working with. But overall, if you were to ask me, I try to keep it push, pull, legs. So
Mhm.
it's always a chest, then it's a back, then it's a legs, which vary. But there's some nuance to that. In
Mhm.
between, again, calisthenics or me, my cardio, I play a ton of volleyball. And then I also throw in burpees and a ton of body weight exercises, whether it's body weight squats, pull ups, making sure that that's my cardio. So those are my essential solids. Again, when working with different people, we can switch it up. We can modify. Some people tend to focus more on weights or they're heavy lifting. But for me, it is essentially body weight, cardio, volleyball, and then a push pull legs program. And again, that even can be modified whether you go one body part 5 days a week. We can modify your program, but that is would be consistent with mine.
And that is awesome, man. I love it. So, is there anything that you yourself learned from each of your patients about yourself with that you tend to adapt to yourself more when you do work with someone?
So I think the adaptation is trying to realize that and having what we're doing is when I'm working with somebody, we're having a conversation. And if we're
Mhm.
trying to get results, I want to make sure that I push you in a way that gets that result. So
Mhm.
adapting to your style and you adapting to mine, we're two people, we have to feed off each other, bring that energy, and realizing that in this relationship or this coaching relationship, you're coming to me for an answer, an experience to find something for yourself that you can apply in real time. And that it means that I'm going to take you through some uncomfortable areas of growth that if you had applied before you met me, we would never have this conversation. That's what
Exactly.
any coach does. They take you through areas of growth that you weren't able to do yourself. That's why you said, "Hey, let's meet, let's sign up. I want you to help get me there."
Exactly.
And that teaches me to meet you where you are, because sometimes I think as coaches, especially what I've seen is we come with this expectation that says I don't want to work with certain level of clients because they're not advanced enough. In working with patients in mental health, I know I need to meet you where you are, and if I
Mhm.
meet you where you are and you're willing to work with me, I'll get you where you want to go. But that's where I think some coaches, they have this line of I can't work with certain, and
Mhm.
I don't do that.
Yes, indeed. So one of the things that is also near and dear to me is when you speak about mental health. Um, the first question is, are you afraid to fail? And if there's, if you can give us some scenarios of where you felt like you may have failed in your life, how did you overcome them?
Oh, I can give real life examples. So, very long story short, and going through and start with nursing school during COVID, the program, I failed two classes during that program, and that pushed me back 1 year. And I can't tell you the negative voices in my head going through that told me, not just that, the people that told me, you aren't going to make it. Like, I don't know if this is for you, Deshaun. Maybe you need to reconsider your life choices. And the truth of the matter is, at any point during that process, if I would have said, I quit, I would not be having this conversation with you today,
That's
right
true.
now.
That
That
is
is a
true.
fact. That is a fact of life that I never lose, that never loses space in my heart. That Deshaun, that is, you have to hold on to that. Remember that quitting gains you nothing, and the other is more personal. I have been through and am going through now my third divorce, and that personal failures have told me that you have to keep pushing through. So yes, I have absolutely. Do I want to fail? No, but do I recognize the value in failure? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. In fact, if not for those failures, I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. You don't intentionally seek it out, but you learn from it when it happens, whether
Mhm.
self-inflicted or life happens. So do I
Exactly.
am I afraid? Not anymore. If you would have asked me previously, that answer would have been way different. But since the
Yeah.
mindset, again, no, not anymore.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm always glad to hear that because one of the things that has always been important to me, and it's important to me because I have actually accrued the same things where people were constantly telling me, you're going to be just like your dad. You're going to be a failure just like him. You're going to constantly do things and never complete them. And like that right there, a lot of people didn't realize that you were not exactly pushing me down, although it made me feel bad because you were constantly saying all these negative things. But it was also motivating to me because I feel
That fuel.
like I'm not going to do what you think that I'm going to do. And to date, I can honestly say that this podcast right here is now in 16 countries and two continents where people are literally watching my podcast on a regular. So I'm proud to say that not only have I overcome those obstacles, but they also said that I was not going to finish school. I am a five-time college graduate, sir. So
So you say you didn't say quit at any point, is what you're saying.
exactly.
Exactly. That come to find out you didn't quit at any point. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, when everybody is talking about what you're not going to do, not going to do,
Did it. We're
I'll say
doing it.
this to anybody: turn that negative into a positive and allow that negative to motivate you. Because if you don't, then you fall subjected to whatever it is that anybody else tells you, not just the people who are always telling you the same thing, but you fall subjected to all the other things that other people have to say. And nine times out of 10, even if they are speaking positive, because you let this get to you, you're going to deem that to be negative too, because you're not going to see the true
The
you
growth in
because you're
you.
not
Yep.
looking at you.
I got you. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you said something else that was near and dear to me too. You spoke on, and after this, I also want to get into the fatherhood because that's another thing that's also important on this podcast because I feel like a lot of the men that come onto the show, I feel like they should express the different variations on how they do things with their children so that other people who these podcasts help can actually take in that advice and utilize that in their everyday lives. But before we get to that, you spoke on something else that was important to me. And it's important to my audience as well. I'm saying to me because a lot of times I take in a lot of stuff that my audience asks me. They'll ask me a lot of questions, and I take those things to heart. And when I'm saying me, I actually mean all of us. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying? So one of the things that's important is, as an African American male, how many obstacles have you overcome, be it racial profiling, be it being put down, and currently in the situation that you're in as far as a divorce is concerned, what have you learned about yourself that may need to change that you won't take into the next relationship?
Let's speak on the adversity first. I'll go back to during nursing school. I was, during my class, the only African American male in the program. So
Wow.
what you'll see in programs is people tend to click based on associations, whether
Mhm.
female, male. So I was a non-traditional African American male in a predominantly female Caucasian dominated profession. So when people went to study, I wasn't the first person necessarily that was invited. I'm 44. I didn't fit the demographic. So
Mhm.
I realized, I humbled myself and realized I had to ask. I had to ask for help. I had to ask. I had to ask. I had to ask, because it wasn't necessarily just going to happen for me, or it was
Mhm.
natural as some of my other counterparts. So that would be one. And let me also note that during that experience, I found two amazing female African American instructors that took me under their wing and helped guide me during that time. And in no short part, if not for their help, I don't know if I would have made it through the program. So
Yes.
that adversity definitely, and now collapsing into the relationship. What I don't want to take into the next one is the mistakes. We, in just opening up during that last portion of our marriage, decided to get into the lifestyle. And there were some experiences that obviously we enjoyed, and there was experiences that were very taxing. And
Mhm.
I think that finally, so knowing that, and I'm going to make a very clear distinction, because I feel sometimes people, when people say that, they tend to judge people in lifestyle. My experiences with marriage is, it is not the people in the lifestyle. Marriage, in its concept, in its theory, is beautiful. It's people who mess up marriage. I don't care whether you're in a monogamous relationship or you're in the lifestyle. It is the people that mess up the institution.
Yes.
Marriage in of itself is beautiful. So I show no judgment to how people decided to love. So
Mhm.
what I'm not going to take into is the judgment of people based on how they decide to love or who they decide to love. It is
Right.
not my business whether it is monogamous or it is lifestyle based, how people decide to love. And
Mhm.
I'm just going to realize that I just another short. I seen a short video of an African American gentleman talking about life, and he had a tape measure that had numbers on it, 1 to 100, and he was,
Mhm.
let's use mine. I was 44, so I tear it at 44, and then he says that the average African American male is to 75, so you tear it at 75. So
Mhm.
that means you have 31 years left on this planet to, and for me, taking that there is not enough time left to argue, fight. It's a short, and that's even if I make it to 75. So
Right.
I'm taking that love, that life, that this is so precious. If we fight and we argue, I want to spend the next amount of time making love, getting love to get it back. Like, it is not worth it. Life is too precious, too
Yes.
short. And as an African American male, with our genes, genetics, and the way life works for us here in America, it's just so taking. That's what I'm going to take. Is that I think I did not value the precious of how short this life is, and it is not worth the arguments and the fighting. We so that
Indeed.
definitely is.
Yes, indeed. And without any form of disrespect or being intrusive, I would just like to say something that I say to a lot of my brothers, because I too I went through two divorces, and I don't want to go through another one. And so far so good. It's been a blessing to be with my wife for a little bit over 30 years. It's been a true
It's
blessing. I'm
amazing.
super
That is
happy, you know. I'm super happy with this woman. I love it. So one of the things that I do like to give advice about is something that a lot of us don't know. And if we don't know, we just don't know. And the thing is this: when my wife, when we first met, she got angry about something. It was a rumor that was going around. stating that I was going to help somebody do something against her. I don't want to divulge the
No, we're
visuals involved, but help somebody do something against her. That's never been my lifestyle. That's never been the type of person that I am. Um, Long story short, she got angry at me and she was yelling and fussing and cussing at me, and she wouldn't listen to me. So I stood back. I just listened to what she had to say. After she got finished, she walked off, but she came back the next day. When she came back the next day, she finally listened to me and understood that no, I was not trying to be a part of anything like that, and that I would never do anything like that to her. Then I turned the negative into a positive because I asked her a question. I asked her, I said, so when you heard this rumor, what was your trigger versus asking me if I actually had something to do with that? And that was the thing that I like to do, like to, educate the the male species on. The reason why I say the male species, because I deal with diversity, I deal with all types of males, regardless to where they're from. As instead of you lashing back out at her, turn those arguments, turn that anger that she has towards you into a question. Listen carefully at what she's saying, but then turn it into a question. Ask her, okay, so what was the trigger? And give her security that this is not me trying to be condescending towards you. This is me trying to learn more about you and understand you so that we can grow, because that's my intent. And when I explained that to my wife, she literally, I kid you not, she did one of these numbers. She was like, she had to step back and
that
take,
aha moment.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
what? And after we discussed it, then she understood that, yes, I'm not like the average male. I literally want to understand you. I'm not trying to, you know, manipulate you. I'm trying to understand you so that we can actually grow. And literally, since that day, we've been constantly growing in our relationship ever since then. Just
It's
because I,
beautiful.
instead of me lashing back out at her, I asked her questions about why she was so angry and what triggered her. And then I used a little bit of psychology because I am a psychology major for 4 years. I used a little bit of psychology because I said, instead of you coming to me and asking me, did I partake in that? So that right there was my psychological point at in that conversation, to also give her something to think about. Like, okay, you didn't come to me, you just automatically accused me of doing something that I wouldn't do.
And in doing that, you're activating that prefrontal cortex. Anger burns quick. But
Hmm.
if all of a sudden you have to process it, you're not as flash fire as all of a sudden. I like that. That's absolutely yes. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I say that to my brother, just as a point of sharing information, sharing advice. If you're ever in a situation, and I do this to all females. It doesn't matter if I'm in a relationship with them or not. I do it to all females. And because that's one of the things that females always say about the male species. We don't understand them. We're not listening to them. But what if we are listening to you? Then what? What if
Right.
we
Right.
show
Now, if I'm
you
asking
that we're
questions, I'm
listening
trying
to
to
you?
process.
Exactly. Exactly. What if we show you that we're trying to learn from you instead of being condescending towards you or getting angry back at you? Because apparently there was something that dictated you don't really understand me. You want me to understand you, but you got angry first instead of asking me. So let me turn it around and let me ask you, since you didn't ask me.
You're absolutely onto something. One of the questions I teach when I teach about anger is I ask my patients, I said, when you're angry, tell me how many of you are out giving out kisses and hugs and showing love. And most of them are like, you're not, because you're angry. So you're in the mindset now. It's
Yeah.
you're not even filtering the information you're getting in clearly and in the same way. And
Yes.
think it, people know it, but they don't realize it in the flash fire moment. So you're absolutely, yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, my brother. I like how you broke that down, man.
Yep.
That is awesome. That is definitely awesome. There's not a lot of people who really understand the format in which I do this, and I do it on purpose because I want not only for the female to think about her actions, but don't just focus on what you feel that you got from me, because sometimes what you feel like you're getting from me is not exactly what it is. Sometimes it's only what someone put there, and now you're feeding off of it. And I would hate for that to could be a continued conversation between myself and this female that I'm engaging with at this moment. And my wife looks at me and she was like, I see you're doing this same thing to everybody. You're not just, this was not just me. This was something you doing to everybody. And now my wife is actually doing it too.
People get, people have a hard time differentiating between the emotional response, which you're going to have,
Mhm.
versus how I should process in an intellectual way for an answer that would benefit me. I tell people all the time, your emotions don't always have your best interests in mind. You're right,
Mhm.
you experience them, you have them, but just because you're angry doesn't mean you should go respond angrily.
Exactly.
So there's a, yes, process the anger, but then give a logical response that's going to benefit you.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You are so right about that. This is one of those times where the analogy slow and steady wins the race. Because when you slow it down, pause for a moment and say, hey, I know I'm angry, but let me come at this way and not the way that I initially intended, or the way I
Yes.
normally come at it, like I used to come at it in the past. When you say, let me come at it this way, you start slowing that process down. And then you start to allow yourself to convert from you're not exactly taking that anger away, but you're minimizing it because you allow yourself to step aside from your normal self and be somebody else for a moment. Well, you're not being somebody else, being your higher self, put it that way,
So,
for
yes,
the
absolutely.
moment.
Yes.
You be your higher self for the moment and allow your higher self to say, hey, this is not exactly what we was thinking in the first place. Let's continue this when you go somewhere else, you know?
I say high desire, low desire. We're talking the same thing. High desire
Mhm.
Deshaun doesn't act angrily because it's not in his best interest. It's going
Yes,
to react in a way that causes something long term. Or excuse me, low desire Deshaun doesn't act angrily. High desire Deshaun considers the consequences and what happens in his actions. So yes,
yes, yes,
absolutely.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
I love you, my brother. You're 44. I will be 53 in September.
Right. We're still young. We're still out here kicking. I love it.
Oh, trust me, I don't feel old at all.
Oh
In
yeah.
terms of workout, I'm actually right where I work out. I'm inside of my garage right now, and I actually
Nice.
have a Bowflex system. I have things that I use for my calisthenics. I have two bikes. I have some I have some weights, but I don't do heavy anymore. I used to do heavy, but now I'm doing more strength training rather than trying to bulk up and do heavy. So I'm working it out.
Nice. Hell yeah.
And I got some
Love it.
resistance bands too.
Yeah, and
I know.
people, it doesn't. It's not always about having heavier load. Plenty of people, you can do body weight exercises and work yourself out just fine. I have seen plenty of people do prison body weight exercises that come out ripped, don't have much for weight. Yeah, so
Yes.
absolutely, yeah, that's a misconception. Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you a real short story. There was this guy. He used to be across the street from where I live, and there's this park, and then there's this big open field right next to the park. He would be in that open field, and I could see him out of my window just as close as I can see us here on the podcast right now. And this dude, he never used weight, and he was ripped like crazy. But you would see him doing all types of calisthenics exercises, and you would see him. He would have 4 buckets, 4 5-gallon buckets,
Hmm.
and two of them will be filled to the rim, with water, and the other two will be filled to the rim when he first gets out there. After a while, he started pouring some of the water out to do certain exercises, and he would use
Okay.
the other two to refill it to whatever weight that he was trying to do for the next exercise. And then he just constantly going, and he would go for hours, hours. And this dude was ripped. He was so physically fit. His, I went out there and talked to him one day, and I truly, truly can honestly say I love this brother's mindset. His mindset was phenomenal. He showed that he really had his stuff together, that he was very sharp, he was articulate, and he had an intellectual conversation with a young man that was only about 7 or 8 years old at the
Yeah.
time.
That mindset, or that just act, that verb, that action that he's portraying shows you don't, a lot of people's excuses. Oh, I don't have this. Oh, I don't have that. That individual just shows you don't need all this. You don't need all that. You just need your mind to go out and say, let's do it in a couple of buckets.
Yep. Yep.
Some water.
And he used this he had this really, really strong stick that he had put on there as well. And I kid you not, man, this dude was getting his
Yeah.
curls on, he was doing pressing. I was like, it was phenomenal and very motivating to see this man work out. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Oh my
That
God.
man don't have no excuses.
No, no, there's no such
Mm-hmm.
thing as excuses.
There's no such thing.
Exactly. So one of the other things, you dabbled into you spoke about predominantly occupied by Caucasian females. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
The nursing profession is predominantly female, predominantly Caucasian in America. I want to say off the top of my head, African American males, I call myself a one percenter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a one percenter in the nursing field, and especially as an African American male in psych, I'm an absolute one percenter. So that's just statistically, I'm the one of the least represented demographics, African American male in the nursing profession in America. So that has an impact. I can even highlight going back to my physical therapy assistant when I graduated from my community college. It was the same way. Physical
Mm-hmm.
therapy assistant is predominantly female, predominantly Caucasian, and so I
Mm-hmm.
was a non-traditional student in both programs, and it had an effect on how I had to operate, what I had to do, and again, it taught me to humble myself, ask questions. You're not necessarily going to see the same circumstances your other counterparts are. Traditionally, the instructors that you're working with
Mm-hmm.
don't look like you. I
Right.
didn't have one male African American instructor in the program. Once I graduated in this area, I've only bumped into, you can count them on two hands. And I live in the, how many African American males are in the in at least in our area. Now, other Atlanta, other demographics, obviously way more represented, but here that hasn't had an impact. And so I've never let it stop me, but it's been a present obstacle that I know I need to negotiate.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were one of the where you're from. Where you're from is very interesting to me because I'm curious if you could possibly be related to me. You're from Davidson, Michigan, and
Yes.
I have family in Davidson. I mean, in Davidson. I have family in Flint. I have family
Okay.
in
Small world.
Detroit. Yeah.
Small world. Okay.
And I'm from Chicago.
Okay. Well, I have family in Chicago over off like 92nd and Ashland. So yeah.
92nd? Oh my goodness. Because my
Mhm.
son grew up on 95th and Halsted.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small world.
My oldest son, he grew up in that area. So he went in my him and my cousins, they went to Harlan over there. They went to some of my other cousins went to CVS. And now I'm talking about both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's side of the family, when I'm talking about the family relatives that live in those areas. It was so crazy when I saw that. I was like, Another Midwestern there, huh?
Yeah, and that's funny because a lot of my family is concentrated in Chicago and Detroit. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Because one of my younger brothers, DeAndre, he actually lives in Detroit right now. And I have some other family members that live in Detroit right now as well.
Mm.
That's pretty cool when I saw that. I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna bring that up. So are you currently still in your native residential area?
Yeah, I'm still in. Well, now I'm in Flint since the divorce. I've now moved out, but I'm still in the Genesee County area. Still
Okay,
local.
cool, cool. Because I'm in Texas right now.
Okay. Okay. How long you been in Texas?
This coming September will actually be 4 years.
Okay.
Yep. We moved to Texas on my birthday in 2021. Yep.
I've had a few friends that have moved out. They've never came back. They love it out there.
Oh, wow. It's nice, and there's a lot of opportunities here in Texas, and it's another one of those growing states. And
Yes.
when I say growing, just last year we had about um, I want to say about 300 new companies come here to create job opportunities for the state of Texas.
Uh,
And some of those included movie companies. A lot of tech companies actually came here. And then we also had construction that came here because now they're also building a lot of residential areas, new
Get all
and
the people.
upcoming residential areas. Yeah. So it's really a lot of opportunities here in Texas for anybody. And I can honestly say they're not discriminatory towards who they're hiring. I can
Okay.
honestly say that.
Remember that.
And I tell you, the if I put it like this, do you remember how it was in the 80s where you can leave one job and go to the next job?
Yes, absolutely.
It's like that here in Texas.
Still that type of. Oh, it's not okay. I have to remember that. Okay.
It's like that now. And
Are you
most of the pay is halfway decent.
San Antonio area?
I'm literally 30 minutes away from Austin. I'm in Gerald.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Gerald is a new development. So this is a new part of Texas. This wasn't all the way always here. And they're still building. Like right now, me and my wife just passed up a part of Texas on our way to the store. When we first came here, there was no construction, there was nothing going on there. Now they've got at least a good 20 or 30 houses on that side. And then across the street from there, they have some apartment buildings that they're actually apartment developments that they're actually building over there. So it's growing and it's growing fast.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely growing fast. And the fitness industry is also growing fast. So just to give you a heads up, it's growing fast out here. There's a lot
That
of
whole online business, there's no cap. There's no
yes,
cap. Yep.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so outside of that, I'm actually going into uh digital marketing, and this was one of the things I haven't put out there yet. But I'm actually going into digital marketing, and because I am a tech guy with computers, computer repairs, and a little bit of programming experience, I felt like this would be a great opportunity for me to advance my career as a podcaster and also as a published author. So this would be the opportunities for me to bring these two together and continue to grow and develop in my life as well.
Same type of goals. Same
Yes.
type of goals. I hear that. I hear that. Yes. Oh yes.
Yes, indeed. So another thing that I liked about when I was reading on on your profile, you said throughout my life, I've also navigated through 3 marriages and divorces, each presenting unique obstacles as I wrestled with the complexities of love and personal growth. When you talk about complexities between love and personal growth, please let the audience know. And I ask you this because I'm using you as a teacher for those other guys who go through divorce and they take it totally differently?
For me, the complexities were navigating children from
Mhm.
multiple marriages and navigating trying to integrate them into each marriage and, yeah, our own personalities and their other children that they had too.
Yes.
And then um, when the relationships ended, the children, how were they handling it? Obviously, they're how they feel is a byproduct of the divorce.
Mhm.
So make sure that because we're not getting along, that you don't leave them by the wayside and you're still attending to their needs and wants. Um, so handling that has been, and then on top of that, life still happens. It doesn't stop because the divorce is going on. Life is still happening. So we're still working, we're still navigating life, we're still navigating each other, and that adaptation and the growing of each person, or as we were together and then apart, that's the complexities. So I've had to learn that as much as I wanted life to stop so I could handle those issues, I had to handle it and keep moving at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, I couldn't get the degrees and or stop life so I could get the degree and focus on the. I had to, I say, juggle,
Yeah.
and in doing that, I've learned to juggle very fucking well.
Hey, hey, that's a blessing, man. And I totally agree with you as far as when you're looking at that struggle, especially juggling with the children, because for some reason a lot of females think that when we separate, that the male tends to just leave everything behind. And I mean, when I say everything, I'm talking about his feelings, his thoughts about the relationship, his thoughts about his
Oh,
relationship with his children, his thoughts about his relationship with the stepchildren. But that couldn't be further from the truth than me telling you that I'm sitting here with a $3 bill right now and I can actually go to the store and spend it. You know, that's how far that is away from the truth.
mm-hmm.
Because when we, as me and a lot of females think that we don't have a desire for compassion, we're not compassionate, we have no empathy, no sympathy for anything, but that's not true. Just because I'm not happy with this relationship between you and I doesn't mean I'm not happy with the relationship between me and the children. That's a whole different dynamic. And if I can continue my relationship with these children, I would love to, but sometimes they are by second nature, they're blocking us from having that relationship with our children. And I say sometimes because not all women do this.
Right.
I can only say sometimes because I can only say from the experiences that I've had, as well as the things or the experiences that I've seen come from others, that not all women do this. Let me say that one more time. Not all women do this. You
Right.
know what I mean? For those that are doing it, sometimes they do it by second nature. And they don't realize that if you're going to keep putting that block up there, then at some point, everybody has a breaking point. At some point, the male is going to say, look, I can't keep trying to, make a square wheel round. I can't keep doing that. That's going to be hard to do if you're not working on the other end to help me to be able to make this wheel round. It's square now, but we need to make this a round wheel so that we can be able to move smoothly, not only in our separate lives, but in the lives of us, because we still have to have that relationship between you and I so that we can have that relationship between me and my children. And I say my
Do,
children because a lot of us, not only mentally, but we physically, and then we show actions of adopting those stepchildren as well.
I think in when people separate out of their relationship, whether married or not, they take that hurt, and unless you've worked through this before, what I tend to notice is we tend to then pass the hurt down to the children, and so that
Mhm.
affects how they view one parent or the other.
Hmm.
And then so now you're trying to navigate these issues with a children that prior to the divorce had okay relationship with you, but now because of it, it's messy. And um, I think the two people have a hard time putting their own personal. They can still get divorced, but we're gonna push our own personal to the side for the children. We talk about doing it, but in reality, it's another hard concept I think people struggle to implement.
Yes.
They say that's what they want, but in reality, when I'm wounded, I'd rather spit that venom anywhere and everywhere versus me. I have to, let it go for the benefit of these kids that, so, um, yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And I always say to both parties. So,
hmm I agree with you. It's not easy, and because we are the type of men that we are, we can actually make a difference because we're not allowing our anger to be at the forefront of every situation. Sometimes we don't have control at the moment, when we let our anger actually take over in certain situations. We're not perfect. So sometimes the anger will win and sometimes the anger will lose. But because we've experienced the anger losing, we're always working towards that. And that's something that, people in general need to work on and understand that this doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that anger is in the forefront of everything. Take your experiences and put those in the forefront of everything, and then take your higher self, like what we talked about earlier, and let your higher self make the decisions. Don't let anger make the decisions for you, because anger is never going to choose the right path. It's always going to choose the negative path, and then
oh,
you
super.
work spending all this time trying to fix it rather than saying, hey, let me put this aside for a moment and let me approach it this way. And who wants to go through that? Because that it takes a long time to fix things when you're angry. It does, especially if you allow it to speak for you. When your anger speaks for you, it takes a long time to fix that because that comes out so strong and so passionate from a deep place that it becomes now the very first thing that this person sees from you because they're not expecting anything else except for that.
I always say you never judge people based on their mistakes because that is another given. We all are going to do what you judge them on based on how they adapt. Do they change? Are they regret? Do they have to? Um, I can't continue to do this because of how detrimental it is to myself and the people around me. That's how you judge. If they make those choices, then you can say, okay, he's a worthy. If they don't make those choices, then you can say, okay, that's some. But never
Mhm.
judge the mistake because you made them, I made them, everybody's. And too many times I think we judge the mistake. And what we do is, okay, you have a relationship, hypothetical. One person cheats, the other person maybe I take their love away. They don't show it. I'm going to restrict my love when you don't do what I want you to do. But
Mhm.
what happens is whether the cheater or the person takes their love away, both of them thinks that each's sin is the cardinal sin.
Mhm.
So when you cheat, there's nothing worse than that. When you take your love away, there's nothing worse than that. Neither of them consider maybe I offended you at the same cardinal sin level.
Yes.
Maybe what I did was your cardinal sin. Maybe what you did was my cardinal sin. Instead of saying, stop weighing the offense. I never believe you get anywhere by weighing the offense. By saying mine is worse than yours. Tell me what benefit you get by saying that and how it's going to benefit your relationship.
Mhm.
Stop judging the offense. Both of you are offenders. You're trying to figure out how to work through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the key thing, which is right there in the front of everybody's face, the key thing is communication.
Absolutely,
If you
yes.
never communicate, how do you expect to resolve anything? You can't. Nothing has
Yeah.
ever been resolved without communication. How do you think negotiations work? Negotiations work through communication. How do you think I first met you? I met you through communication, be it text, typing, verbal, video.
Touch.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, touch, definitely. communication is how I met you. So if we
And the minute
don't,
that breaks down, it's a it's hard to.
yes, yes, indeed. Once you take that communication away, you might as well say, hey, well, you know what? Let's just move forward because this relationship is now just ended because we're not going to use communication anymore. And pretty much it has. It's no different than trying to say that I just talked to a guy over there in Timbuktu. Although I never met him before, I never said one word to him at all, never typed or text or touched or anything at all. I just communicated with that person. But how so?
How so? Right, right.
So we have to keep communication in the forefront of any relationship. And I'm a relationship coach as well. So that's one of the things that I actually teach is how important communication is and how effective it can be in any situation, whether you're happy, sad, angry, whatever the case may be, you still have to keep the lines of communication open in order to resolve it. And
Absolutely.
there was a lot of us don't, because I've done my homework and my research, a lot of us don't realize that we're the start. We're the start to solving 99% of the problems in the world. We're the start. If we don't start that communication to help resolve that problem, 9 out of 10 times, it will never get started. And that's just real.
At that time, I think people don't even. I think you talked about your philosophy degree, so to me, that gave you that background in communication and how to. You talked about it. Most people don't realize they don't have a background in education and communication, so I don't even know if they realize their style or how they're doing it, or when they're emotional, it's different, or how you interpret it. And because I talk about it again in my classes, and I'll talk about communication, and I'll ask people, and then it's all of a sudden the first question I ask them is, "Who taught you how to communicate?"
Right.
Like, come to find out, it's a skill. It's a skill. You need to
Yeah.
work on it. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's a skill that actually comes with that whole point of second nature. It actually comes quite easily. Now, to
Yes.
be effective in your communication, now you have to learn what's your communication style and the communication style of
Yes.
the people who you actually talk to. That way, when you learn something new, guess what? Now you can apply it.
Adapt it. Yes. And you were talking about that. Absolutely. It's
Yes,
communication
indeed.
is more than just the simple words coming out of your mouth.
Yes,
That doesn't mean you know how to communicate. That means you know how to talk. There's a difference.
there's a big difference. Because anybody can talk.
Anybody can talk.
I mean, just the fact of me reading the words off of the screen, I'm talking. It doesn't turn into communication until I direct it to the person that it's
Yes.
about or whomever has an opinion about it. If I'm dialoguing with another individual, that's when it becomes communication. But other than that, I'm reading and I'm learning.
Right.
It's still
Yep.
talk.
Yeah. Still talk. Yes.
So, my friend, I've definitely enjoyed this conversation, enjoyed our time. We're getting close, so please give us something motivational to take us out.
First, your self-limiting beliefs are limiting you. I know that you have this in your mind, this concept of somebody that hurt you back in the past, back in the day. And I challenge that whatever they did is way less than what you do to yourself daily. Whether you don't take care of yourself, whether you're not loving yourself, whether you're not going to the gym, working out, exercising, these all benefit you physically and mentally. Get a coach, find a mentor, get on a team of people if you don't know how to do it yourself. This is how you can better your life, push yourself, and get out of whatever rut you're in. We're 7 months into the year. Don't go into 2025 in the same condition you came into this one.
Words to live by, people. Words to live by. Please take this advice and run with it. And again, out of everything that my brother, Mr. Jackson, has said, think about it. You still have to communicate. You have to communicate. And it's basically where what it is, your body language, your words, your verbiage, how you perceive things. All these things are different ways that we can utilize our communication skills and advance them. So that's what you want, growth throughout your entire life is growth. Most definitely. So how can we reach you, Mr. Jackson?
Currently, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Deshaun Jackson, or you can find me on Instagram under the Psych RN Fit, PsychrNFit, the Psych RN Fit. If you're looking for a coach, message me, get on the team. And I always want to go out saying, stay tuned, movie, book, podcast on the way.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. And I got a special one for you. I've already started following you on Instagram.
I seen that, started following you back. I appreciate the love. Absolutely.
Most
Absolutely.
definitely. Anybody out there, please make sure you're following Mr. Deshaun Jackson on his Instagram page. And I kid you not, you will not be disappointed. It's pretty good content on there. Definitely saying some powerful things. And I'm loving seeing the different types of workouts that you're actually doing. It's amazing. And it's definitely motivating. No doubt about that. It's definitely motivating. So please check out Mr. Deshaun Jackson's page, check out Mr. Deshaun Jackson, and look forward to the movie book podcast. Everything that's coming on, check it out. Check it out. Please check it out. Thank you so much, everybody. Mr. Jackson, thank you for joining YTP Entertainment. Peace and blessings, my friend. And we are out of here.